Good evening. You are watching the Norfolk Conservation Commission meeting of January 4th, 2023. In accordance with the provisions of MGL Chapter 30A, Section 20, notice is hereby given that the Conservation Commission will meet on this date at 7 p.m. in Meeting Room 124 at 1 Liberty Lane, Norfolk. Additional public access to this meeting shall be done via Zoom online video conferencing. The application will allow users to view the meeting and provide comments during allocated windows. To join, follow the web link or call the dial-in number listed below under the start time. Call to order. So if you go to the Norfolk page, town page, you'll have the go to the conservation agenda, and it will give you that link right from your computer. So let's begin. We have no public hearings.
That's correct. And it doesn't look like the resident for the informal discussion is on yet. So
Okay.
maybe we could take the agenda slightly out of order and discuss 15 Lincoln Road.
Yep. Sounds good. Sir, who are you representing, or who are you with? Are you muted?
Coming through?
Yep, now you are.
Okay. Thanks so much. Yeah.
Yes.
Really appreciate the time. My name is Joe Dorfler. I'm with the law firm of Rich May. We represent NextGrid.
Okay. Yeah, that 15 Lincoln Road, so yeah, it's timely. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, no, so I just wanted to say, again, appreciate the time. We received the board's letter, or the letter from Kaylin earlier today, and we're still going over it, still reviewing. Really appreciate, setting out the short-term, the long-term actions. We intend to go through. I don't have, unfortunately, our engineer is on a plane right now, so I don't have a immediate response, but we will certainly get something back and have something well before the next commission meeting. And the only thing we ask is if it's possible just to get on the agenda for the next one so we can hopefully move quick.
Yeah, we can continue it. I guess from my viewpoint, I'm a little bit upset, concerned that NextGrid hasn't done any of the things yet, like putting the grass seed down, because we had given them instructions months ago, correct? And they should have done it during the summertime, and it wasn't done. And now it's winter, and grass won't grow. Well, it will in this weather, but basically won't grow until April, May now. So NextGrid's got to get a fire under themselves and react and do some positive action. But yeah, we can continue this until it'll be the first agenda item on our February meeting.
That would be great. Yeah, and understood. Yeah, I could be getting the sites mixed up. I believe that they did put down some grass seed earlier in the summer, which didn't take root. But absolutely, yeah, we really appreciate getting on early for February. And yeah, the intention is to get this resolved as soon as possible. I mean, I know that they intend to be doing most of these already, so I don't want to overcommit before speaking, but I like I said, putting down the further. Yeah.
And along with the grass seed, they have to bring in dirt, soil.
Right.
And what was it, 6 inches or so?
Yes. It was a minimum of 6 inches of topsoil. And so if you don't mind me asking, what action items do you have reservations about? I know you had a question about the the check dams.
Right. To talk to the engineer, so he might understand this a little bit better than me. I'm not an engineer, but I just wanted to make sure that what we do is the intention of the commission. That was the only. I wouldn't call it a reservation. I just want to make sure that I know exactly what we're doing so we can do it properly.
Okay.
That was the only. That was the only thing behind that question, because I don't. Like I said, I'm not the engineer, so I don't know. I'm not the best with I just want to make sure that what we do it right.
Yeah.
And that we can get it resolved quickly, properly. I just want to make sure it's done right. That's all.
So I did put together a figure. If you want to bring that up, Elaine. It is the check dam figure. I can just kind of briefly explain.
Sure.
So this is just a screen grab from the as-built plan. And the check dams that I referred to in my letter are on the outside of the fence, to the east of the fence. And the way that they're currently configured is to receive flow that comes from the south. However, when I was out there in December, on December 8th and December 18th, I saw evidence of flow coming from the central portion of the site, which caused the flow to bypass those check dams. So instead of hitting the first check dam and then going on to the second, third, and fourth, it just bypassed. It went around that first one and off to towards the edge of the site. I'm also not an engineer, but I'm fairly certain it's a relatively simple fix.
Yeah.
So it could be something as just changing the shape, doing it an asymmetrical check dam instead of just straight, or something like a cross vein formation, which is pretty much like a V shape, and that would just force the water that's coming in parallel to move down the slope and hit those other check dams. So it's not, it's a relatively easy fix. It's not, there isn't calculations or engineering that really needs to go into that. It's really just evaluating on site and just reconfiguring those structures.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yes. And that's very helpful to see. I really appreciate that. And yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't have any I don't see any reservations here on me personally. I mean, I would like to reserve rights, to go back to the client just to double check. So I can't say right now as much as I would like to, but that's very helpful. And I'm sure that we can get this resolved fairly quickly.
Okay. Well, we look forward to having the NextGrid's engineering people on board with you, and we can discuss it through and take some action steps.
Yeah, that would be much appreciated. And excuse me, for those next action steps, we will. I remember, I believe it was in December. The next steps, once we have this, then NextGrid would put together the plans and exactly how they're going to satisfy these, and to submit that well in advance for review prior to the next, the February hearing. Just want to make sure that's still the plan, if there's anything else that the commission is expecting, or if that's still,
No, I think we're looking for the action steps and the timing of performing them.
Okay, sounds great.
All right, thank you. We'll see you next month. Okay. So we don't have to vote on the partial CFC. Okay. Minutes.
Is this the Bush Pond people?
No, that was Lincoln Road.
No, I mean, not,
Oh,
Yes.
hi. We've got some people on Zoom. Why don't you introduce yourself, name and address, and why you're on. I think if you're for the Bush Pond, that's what we're looking for.
Yep.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. My name is Erica Morin. I'm joined by my sister, Samantha, who's also on video. My mom's watching on YouTube right now. Thank you so much for having us and giving us the opportunity to bring this proposal to you today. We are from Brett's Farm Road. I don't live there now, but my mom lives there. We've lived there for 34 years, going on 35. And we're here today to talk to you about a dedication bench at Bush Pond in memory of my dad. And Caitlin, are you pulling up the document or do you want me to share?
So I did pull up a PDF version, but if you want, if it's easier for you to bring it up and go through it.
I can do that.
Yeah. Elaine will share the technology.
Okay.
It's a beautiful picture of Bush Pond.
yes it is.
Isn't it so beautiful?
Oh, it is.
All right, so you're sharing it right now?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just get it on my screen here. So as you can see from that picture, it is a really beautiful place. We think it's one of the most beautiful places in the town of Norfolk, and it's been underutilized for many years. As I said, we've lived in Norfolk for almost 35 years, and this space is just a space that we've gone by every day. It's so beautiful, and we want to look to add a bench in memory of my dad, but also to provide people a place to sit. So if you'll go to the next slide about the space.
But you could do it as a co-host.
Oh, can you do it on your
That's
computer?
fine. No, I got it.
Oh, Elaine's got it.
Yep.
Yep. Thank you, Elaine. So this is the map of where the area is. It's land owned by the town of Norfolk. You
Blow
can see
that
that
up
pretty
so we
picture
can see the
there
map
with the
better.
swan. There's 2 swans that come back year after year. There's turtles. There's fish in that pond. And it's a really beautiful area that we feel like has a lot of potential. And then if you can go to the next slide. So this is my dad. Sorry, I didn't want to cry, but he just loved bringing my kids and my sister's kids to the pond just to see the turtles and swans, and but they never had anywhere to sit. So that is the reason for the bench. And if you can go to the next slide. So this is a space. You can see on the left-hand side, that is what it looked like around May timing of 2022. Weeds everywhere. You can see they're climbing up the sign there. And with the help of Rich and Caitlin and Ann, we got down there, we cleared out the weeds. Shout out to my mom, who was there the most. She did a ton of work. She got poison ivy a bunch of times. But we've cleared out the space now, and it's a beautiful, beautiful space, open space that looks right out to the pond. It's just waiting to have a bench there. So if you go to the next slide, this is the plan. It's a really simple plan. So there's a big oak tree there, and then across the way we want to install the memorial bench, much like something that you see at by the library in the center of town. There's the benches there that are dedication benches. We do something similar. It would be anchored by concrete. It would be looking out onto the pond and looking at the beautiful trees and swans and turtles. And then the other part of this is there is a driveway where people park. And if we don't place something at the beginning of this spot, people will think that it's more additional parking space. So what we were thinking is to place large boulders at the beginning of the area, just to ensure that no one parks beyond that space. So that's a very simple plan that we have. And I guess I'll open it up to any questions that you might have.
Group?
I have a question. I was under the impression this was at the corner of Park Street and Bush and Lawrence, but it's not. It's actually if you take a right onto Lawrence Street, is this the path on the right side, or is this on the left-hand side where the parking area is?
Left-hand side where the parking area is.
Okay, all right, that explains things. So it's that little wooded driveway area that went through to Park Street. It cut
Exactly.
through, a little cut through.
Exactly.
Okay. And you like to put boulders at the parking area right at the dirt, where it turns to dirt there, and again on the other side as well?
Not necessarily on the other side at this moment. Right now, I think there's trees there.
There's something there that, I haven't looked at it recently, but okay. I see.
Yeah, there's plenty of trees. We could put
Okay.
something there, but I think the immediate need is at the front where the asphalt is.
Yeah,
Where
we can take a look at that and work with TPW to possibly
that's-
bring in some big boulders and
Yeah,
put 'em
we've
there.
got some we could put there across there, just to keep, you
people.
don't have to have big ones, but decent enough so you can't drive in there.
Yeah.
Because I backed up to that just today. I was there.
You were
Were you
hiding?
fishing?
No, that's where the beavers are. That's right where the beavers are eating the trees. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a lot of beaver activity right there.
Said it, yeah.
But, yeah.
They harvested a few beavers today. Alive. We don't kill.
Anyway, all right, now I have a
We moved
better
them.
idea on where we're talking.
Okay.
Well, you can't move them.
I don't know what happened to them.
Look, we won't go with the beavers, what happened to the beavers. We'll leave that be right now.
They're getting some re-education.
Yes.
Well, just, you know,
Yeah.
it is lethal control. You
Yes,
can't-
they were removed legally, let's
Yes.
put it that way.
Yes,
A
unfortunately.
licensed
We're on
person did it.
a farm.
Talk about beaver
upstate.
management later.
Yes.
Exclusion devices,
Yes.
Yes.
tree exclusion devices later.
They are actually helping out the view if the park bench is gonna go right there. They're removing some more trees so you can see right out there nicely.
Yeah, we hired the beavers.
Ah,
So,
subcontractors. Well, it sounds like a great idea.
Would we need wood chips there too, do you think?
Probably.
we could work with them on that. I'm sure
mean,
DPW could work
Just
with on that.
untreated wood chips in the area to kind
Yep.
of cut
it
down on the
nice.
growth, since they've already done all that work cutting
Yeah.
back the brush?
Most of that is already cleared where we see the
Yeah.
dirt area there. They probably cleaned the brush along the edge of the bank where
So
the
if we
poison
could-
ivy was.
all right.
But yeah, it's pretty cleaned out from what I saw today.
But yeah, putting wood chips down could make it a little better.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think in discussions, wood chips are in the immediate area around the bench was definitely something that was proposed to, keep the weeds from growing back. And I'm not sure if it was mentioned, but so the bench would have concrete footings to keep it in place. But overall, it's a pretty small footprint.
Yeah.
That would cut down on the erosion,
Yeah, and
maintain the weeds there too.
and it's actually, the area is relatively flat. And then it's a pretty steep slope down to the pond. But as far as, potential erosion issues, I think it would probably flow towards Lawrence Street. It's kind of sloped that way.
Yeah, right where that dirt, we see the dirt coming back towards Lawrence, that's paved. That's a paved area. So the water runs off that asphalt pavement and it goes towards Lawrence Street more than it goes into the area
That's the
there.
old road.
Yeah, so I've really never seen water build up there, and there is no erosion visible. So,
Again, I think it's a good idea. What do we need to do, Caitlin?
I mean, considering the small footprint of the activity and, the fact that the area's been disturbed many times, that at one point it was, a materials and storage area for the Causeway project. It was all invasives that have now been cleared out. So I think the commission could consider approving this without an application, although it obviously is in, the buffer zone to Bush Pond. So that's something to consider.
Kind of similar to how we've done the Boy Scout projects. Without all the permit activities and all of that, but just kind of a letter that states what they're doing and kind of a picture of the bench, and then we just approve the letter.
Right.
Approve,
And
sign off once it's completed.
so myself, Rich, and Ann from Parks and Rec, we've been in a discussion with them. We'll be involved in the project and involved with it being installed. So, there will be oversight.
Yeah, and I guess to make it formal, and so it's on record, if you could send us a short letter with what your intentions are and the reason, and then it'll be in the file, so if anybody says, where'd that bench come from and why is it dedicated to this guy?
And even just an online copy of the bench that you're thinking of installing. So we have that with the application, so if anybody comes back in 5 years and says, I want to put up a bench, we're going to say, well, this is what we've been doing, because we had the Boy Scouts do the same thing. They submit, the size, the materials they're going to use, and about where they're going to do it, so we're consistent going forward.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay, and can I send that letter to you, Caitlin?
To the department, yeah.
Yeah, to the department or to the chair.
Okay. I just have your email address. So.
She'll get it to me.
Okay. So it's a letter saying what we want to do and a picture of what the bench would look like.
And, yeah, when the timing is.
And timing. Okay.
I don't know what the lead time is on getting a bench like that.
Dan said around 2 months at the moment.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
time April comes around, it'll be,
springtime?
yeah, perfect.
Yeah, I would love, the idea would be to get it for the 1-year anniversary in April.
Oh, okay. Great. Well, we thank you. We like that initiative.
Thank you so much for
You're
the
welcome.
time. We appreciate it.
We'll see you again.
All right.
Bye.
Beautiful grandkids, by the way.
Thank you.
How do you know about the grandkids?
Because they're in the
They were in the picture.
What picture?
Oh, come on, you didn't see it, it was
You were
right up there on the
distracted
board.
because I was crying.
I missed it, I'm sorry.
She was
Oh,
crying.
oh, that
She was
one,
crying
that
at the
one,
time,
that
yes.
Yes. I concur.
Happy New Year.
Happy New
All
Year.
right. Happy New Year. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right.
Well, if I could bring something up real quick, we had mentioned it before we had a meeting with someone at our appropriations. The HOD school, if you drive in towards the school facing you, on the right-hand side of the building, they have a small playground, and they have several signs that indicate the type of foliage and plant identification and stuff like that. The signs are extremely faded, and some are broken. So I'm wondering if that's something
Replace
that
them.
we could do, or contact the Boy Scouts as far as a Boy Scout project. The only thing with the Boy Scout project, it would be probably pretty expensive, but
Yeah.
it would just require relaminating, 3x3 signs on wood and then reinstalling them.
I believe John Whittleton put that park in, I believe.
Yeah.
That playground,
And then just
funded it.
a little further down is where one of the Boy Scouts put a walking trail. They took a
Yes.
picture of my kids
Yeah,
with
with the
the
birdhouses.
birdhouses. Yeah. So this
Yeah,
is
that's a little
just
further
before
down
it.
from that.
So
Yep.
it's the playground, not the one on the left and drive-in. It's a little further
It's in
down
the back,
on the
on the
right.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the
But
little
it's got-
kids, where the little kids are.
Yes. So it's got, a bunch of conservation issues, information, and a little, there's a little trail that kind of goes around, and that's on there also. So I thought that was something that maybe we should look at.
Is this the land that was donated by the Kundi family?
Yes.
Okay.
But it starts off on school property, and then it goes into the Coondy Woods,
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
not
which
sure if
goes,
this is,
which goes in, oh.
But this is
If it's
just
not night,
before.
oh, it's just before,
it's just before it, they're actually a school playground.
yeah.
And then in the playground, they have a field, and then they have these, like, plant markers, or it's a 3x3 with, describing foliage and,
I've
And the
never
trail
been
and-
back there. Well, I've only driven by it, I've never been back there to see the
yeah.
signs.
Yeah, it's been a while.
They're off a little bit
Yeah,
off.
I don't, you know
So,
what, I think I
from
could-
what I understand, when that land was donated, funds were also allocated
Yes.
to,
For maintenance upkeep.
for maintenance and to, create trails or,
And I
enhancements.
think there would be
So I
sufficient
think-
money in
yeah,
that
I
that
do believe
fund
there would be,
to redo the signs.
so I can look into that.
Yeah, and then maybe get a sign company to come out and take a look at them, and there are a couple sign companies, and get some quotes.
So the existing signs are, they're wooden?
Yeah, I'll have to find them. I know I took pictures, we were out there recently.
With your grandkids?
I'll kill you.
Is this in the back of the school or?
It
Yeah,
may be school property.
Yeah.
it's on the
Okay.
left side.
No, it's on the right side, going in,
No, if you're facing the school, it's on the left, isn't it?
No, it's on the
no,
right.
on the right.
It's the right
So you
playground.
go around the back by the dumpsters, per se, there's a dumpster section, the
Yeah.
boiler room of the
Okay,
school.
all right.
Yeah,
It's right in the
past
back
those.
where the parking lot opens up wide.
It's kind of right in the rear
All
of the
right,
school.
now, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, I
It's
guess.
in the rear of the school, you can't see it from the street or anything. You'd have to drive in there to see
You
it.
just go to the HL&D school.
So we'll check. I think the money that
HL&D,
the
it's right on
the
Main
Kundi
Street,
family that we
right next to
have
Medway Street, right across
should
from
be able to cover
Marshall's
that.
warehouses.
Yeah,
put the new signs in.
Right.
And see if we can get them maybe shellacked or a little bit, something
weatherproof.
weatherproof so they preserve better. They probably were just plaques that got put up and they were just wood. That's why they're faded out.
Yeah, because that wasn't too long ago,
No.
was it?
Yeah, but- Well, it was, time
Yeah.
flies, probably 5, 6 years ago anyway,
Both.
when it was
My
put
son
in.
Daniel goes there now,
Minimum.
I think, yeah.
so.
But yeah, I think if we get a couple of sign companies out there and tell them what we're thinking of.
Yeah, I guess I didn't have reason to go in there, would I?
Okay.
Yeah, I've got it somewhere. If I ever find it, I'll send it to you. But we could, we could pick, other than what they have there, we could do one with, animal habitat, reptile habitat, and then,
Add to it.
trees and then low growing vegetation.
Poison ivy.
Yeah. That,
Please
that-
touch.
Don't touch this.
Okay. Why don't we approve the December meeting minutes And then we can go into the correspondence and talk about any other subject.
The December 7th minutes are still in draft form. Those will need to be continued to the February agenda.
Okay. All right then, let's go to the Metacomet Land Trust.
I believe we have the letter.
It just looked like a solicitation, right? A solicitation for fundraising funds from them?
Yes.
Is this the walkway or the thing they want to put in by the?
No, they were talking about like the Castle Hill Farm a couple towns over, how they like dedicated,
Oh, okay.
got land dedicated. There's like a dairy farmer, retired or something, and donated the land.
Castle Hill.
I can't remember what town it was in.
Franklin Orento?
No, I don't think so.
Northbridge?
Yeah, that might have been Northbridge.
Yeah, it says, won't you make a donation today? But we're not going to
No.
make a donation.
No, we don't donate.
So it's just informational
Oh.
solicitation.
Scratch that.
Okay.
Go on. Done. Sorry.
It's correspondence. Okay, what are the MAC dues for next year? Including Rich. Happy New Year, Rich.
He shut
Happy
us
New
off.
Year.
He shut us off.
No, Happy New Year.
$724.
Okay. And when is it due by?
I think they just send this to us so that we can prepare the budget.
Yeah.
When we put in an operational budget request,
For
that
July.
amount
Yeah, because
is
this
in
is for
there.
24.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that we know how much to set aside. But I'm assuming we put that in there.
So, yeah, make a 24 budget sheet and that could be the first thing.
We'll do. We'll do like we have been doing. Sure.
And then about 20,000 for two 4x4 ATVs,
Yeah.
so we can monitor our land. Okay. Eversource. Just letting us know that they're cutting down trees.
Well, it's
along-
pretty obvious. Go down Union Street and see what they've done.
Yeah,
Boy.
especially by,
Remember I made the
before-
comment about pine trees? We should cut them all down? I didn't
They did
mean
it.
And they're doing it.
they did.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Right before,
Doesn't it?
yeah, right before.
King Street. King Street.
King Street, yeah, that farm.
That farm, they cleared the land for them.
Yes.
Still,
And then up further, some of those trees look like they went right in people's front yards. So, yeah, we'll take it down for you.
they did.
Wish they'd come by my house.
We got a letter in our front yard.
Yeah?
They said that there was information on who to contact if we wanted them to do additional pruning while they were out there.
Really?
We missed it because it was in the ground in the mulch near
Oh.
our mailbox.
Oh.
And
Boy,
my husband was so mad.
I bet he was. That one, we've been wanting that
should've
down
got
for
it.
years.
Like, I would have had him do a bunch of stuff. So I thought that was weird that they provided that
Yeah.
to us. I've never heard of them
Yeah,
offering
we didn't
that
get a
before.
letter, and we've got
Well, it's only if
trees
they're
by
cutting in front,
lines.
if they're cutting in front of your property, they get putting out letters to let
Well,
you know.
there's
Right, yeah, we didn't see a
wires.
letter.
Yeah, you didn't see it, no?
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe they were
Did you get a letter?
selective.
Maybe it was.
Adam, maybe.
Was it today?
Would have been December.
They didn't take too many in
Yeah,
front of your
a month
place,
ago.
did they?
They
But,
a couple.
okay.
Yeah, small.
That's
ones,
not-
yeah.
And so this specific letter, so they are doing maintenance on the roadway, but this letter also talks about they're going to be doing maintenance within the right-of-way, the transmission right-of-way. So,
Possible impact with us.
so that work is exempt.
Yes.
So this is just providing the commission notice of the work that they're going to be doing when I think they said they were going to be starting January 16th. And, they provided the exemption under the Wetlands Protection Act that allows them to do that without filing. And they will be implementing mitigation measures in areas where they need to cross through wetlands and other erosion control type measures.
Okay. Next will be the Open Space Committee discussion. And Caitlin and I have had some conversations on this, and we have some questions about the Open Space Committee, and it's a subcommittee, but who's in charge of it? The planning board, us, whatever. And so she's contacting the town council to get the feedback, who has authority to start this process. And then once we have that, then we can begin the discussion and start moving that forward.
Right, so it for sure can be a subcommittee of the Conservation Commission, but depending on how every town is different, so sometimes it'll be the select board that makes the appointments instead of, the Conservation Commission. Sometimes it needs to go through a town meeting vote. So I just wanted to speak with town council to make sure that everything is
Legal.
checks out. And it's a little different since it's going to be a standalone committee, basically a permanent open space committee, not just an open space and recreation plan committee that's created just for the purpose of, seeing that the open space plan gets updated, and then after that is over.
Well, I really think, looking at our commission as a business model, if it were a business, we are just focused on regulatory. For the most part of what we do when we meet, it's regulatory. And you could just change our name to Water Board Regulatory Commission and not Conservation. And I really feel that the movement that we've made in the last, especially year and a half, of what we did with water, by saying, look, we're gonna treat these all the time so that we take care of them and conserve them, is more so than a regulatory position of somebody comes forward and said, this pond's 70%, so we need to go in and do something. I think what we need to do is, there's a lot of what's driven in open space should be dealt with in a conservation type of position of, when you have the smaller portions, is it an urban forestry and urban habitat? In the larger spots where we have conservation land, we haven't talked about clear cutting small spots for deer habitat, birds and insects. Some of the smaller parts of some towns have done open community gardens, and we take some of the shrubbery that's native to our town, and we grow them there, and then the neighbors can come and, dig up the shrubs, and we just keep replanting them. And so we don't have to have, 50 or 100 acres. We can have an acre, and then we can decide what we do within that acre. But almost like most business models have a pyramid, and on the bottom of the pyramid, for us, would be regulatory, because that's the base of what we do. But the other things that we do, acquiring land and managing the land, looking at trails and, bettering the trails, adding benches like we're doing, mulch, and the maintenance of the trails, the markings, and all of those type of things that our commission is starting to do. Getting the Boy Scouts involved, getting the Lions involved, and having more of a representation in the community on the commission. Because before, when David and I started, it was us and builders. And it was regulatory. That's all we talked about. We didn't talk about saving anything. And I think going forward, which is why I joined, was the conservation portion. And, that's what you went to school for. And, very good at regulatory, but I think we need to fill in the rest of the pyramid as far as conservation and leading the charge in conservation in the town, regardless of the size of the lots. But you do other things, and, the problem is that most towns, this is what they do. You meet, you approve, and we're nothing different from the planning board or the zoning board of appeals if we act that way. And I think our position should be open space. We're conservation. We're here to conserve areas and utilize the funds from, what the state mandated with the other board that Alan's on, with the Capital Appropriations Committee. And
CPC.
Yes, exactly. And, the state foresaw this type of things happening and came up with this program. And that's why all these departments are in the program, to each get a feel for it. But I think when it comes to coming up with a blueprint going forward, that, David and I talked about in the winter months when the meetings are short, is these are the subjects that maybe every month we put on the agenda. So in 2 or 3 years, 1 month we talk about trails, the next month we talk about water, and then we have a little agenda of what we want to talk about, and what would we do in a plot of land that's 3/4 of an acre. Maybe you have an idea of, flowers or, shrubbery or a garden or, whatever we think that we can do to improve these different things. And then acquiring land, trying to find new ways to acquire land, either through donations, through leases, through, tax relief, and, dividing up a property that's 50 acres and saying, you can keep 10, we just want the 40. And, and how does that look so that when the land sells, we're not trying to buy 50 acres. We've already told them that, from you turn 60 till you both pass away, we'll take care of everything for you. And then when you pass away, your relatives get 10 acres. And maybe they build on the 10, but it's better than building on 60. And then we at least have 50 in the back that we can use for habitat. Yeah, and, and I disagree with CPC on saving any type of water, anything that's protected now either by town or by state statutes, because that can change. If we were talking 15 years ago, we wouldn't have been talking about 40B and protecting some of our wetlands. And we wouldn't purchase wetlands because, hey, town protects them. Well, now, the town can try to protect them, but the state's saying they can build on them, and their restrictions are less. So I think if we even get wetland areas, we should take them. Even if we get them for pennies on a dollar, we can protect them because now we own them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I've thought about the last couple of months, and what I thought where we're missing, and where we could build like a pyramid of what ideals. Because if you look at what the selectmen did, they kind of did exactly what I was talking about. They've kind of got like a view of what their committee wants to do in the future, of what they want to look at as a group to help better the community. So that's what I have on that.
So we don't have an open space committee right now, do we?
No.
We're looking to form one? Is that what?
Well, yeah, what the town historically has done is just set one up to do the plan, and every 5 years, and then it's
Then it goes away.
disbanded, and so if we have a permanent one, you can be more proactive and say, okay, here's what we said we wanted to do, we're gonna help the different boards, et cetera, departments, get us to that. And so I've been going through the last one, open space, and starting to highlight and circle and say, okay, I know we've done this, we haven't done this. I forgot what property it was, but it's contaminated, so yeah, we don't want to. The man property was brought up about doing something there, and it's like, cross that off because it's contaminated.
Well, that brings us back to Dave earlier tonight, when we spoke before the meeting of a piece of property I was talking to you about that could be purchased for open space, and I brought that up to CPC as well. Because that's conservation, and that CPC money can be used for that.
Yeah.
For water, drinking water places, it can't be. And it's not a very big parcel, but it might be worth looking into on that end if the town doesn't want to look at it for a water facility. And that's what I was looking at with CPC, and I was going to bring that up as well.
Okay.
That runs right around where you're at. But,
And what we've done with Richard before is, all right, we've got a parcel, we'll trade you 3 or 4 acres for one parcel. You can have our water rights, but we want 15 acres next to the trail that we already have. And, part of open space would be, do we want to have a larger central section? Do we want to have a bunch of small sections? Where are, the deer populations, and where are they moving to and from? We don't want to have, if it's better to have...
Don't be talking about deer, because we have hunters in the audience and on the board.
That's okay. We like to have deer.
Yeah. So
We like to have.
it's those type of things with open space of what type of habitat, where the habitat is, and trying to maintain that through having the parcels in different parts, and what land do we have that we want to add to. So by taking 5 acres of recreation property next to the Freeman Kennedy, we give up 5 acres there, and say, for example, we get 25 acres next to the trail that we really could use. And I think,
I agree.
that even taking the land and putting it in conservation doesn't have to be wetlands. It could be recreation for future, whether it's in conservation or recreation. I think it's just conserved for,
Future.
yeah.
So, I think that's all great. I love all of it. I think it's really exciting that, because I'm very passionate about open space. I just want to say that the regulatory authority to purchase, to acquire, and maintain land for conservation will always remain with the Conservation Commission. It's true that when the commission became delegated the responsibility of implementing the Wetland Protection Act, and then created local bylaws, that the work tended to be then all regulatory. And sometimes, especially depending on who's on the board and what their passions are, the open space stuff, which is kind of the fun stuff, the creative stuff, got pushed to the side because of the deadlines with the regulatory authority. But regardless of whether the open space committee, whatever the select board or the residents of Norfolk decide, the open space committee can never replace the regulatory authority that's given by state law to the commission. The commission is always going to be the entity that can acquire land without going to town meeting. So that's something that is, if you're thinking about housing it under the select board or under the planning board, that's something to consider. It'll never replace the commission on that, end. And I did mention before that since Norfolk doesn't have a conservation land fund, that we should consider opening one and fundraising to be able to purchase properties using that fund. It makes us more flexible, where we don't have to go, for example, CPC funds. You have to go to town meeting to approve those funds. But a conservation land fund, we don't need to go to town meeting. And I love the idea of coming up with management plans. That's what I used to do when I worked at the New England Aquarium, was worked on protected area best management practices and coming up with a written plan for each parcel. What are your goals? What kind of habitat? Are you managing for open water? Are you managing for old growth? Are you managing for, for new growth, for, grouse or whatever, whatever type of species or whatever, we're interested in. So having the opportunity to get funding for and either hire an outside entity or, as a pet project, us creating management plans for each property, I feel that they should be in writing.
Yes.
But my thought on open space committee would be that it would be dedicated people who would have more time to be able to allocate to these sort of projects, management plans and things. I keep recommending, because it is the Conservation Commission Act that gives a town the authority to have an open space and recreation plan, that it should be a subcommittee of the commission. But, that'll always continue to be my opinion, but other people might have something different to say. But then, that it's different stakeholders that would be on that subcommittee, but then empower us to act. And of course, we could always have land that's kind of subdivided between conservation and recreation. And we should have, could have lands that are dedicated for water, not necessarily for, wells, but all water, all our water leads, is connected in some way. So if we put a contaminant in, it's all in the watershed, it's all flowing by everybody's house. And, if we have, especially upland forest is hugely important to water quality and water quantity. Mm-hmm. So I think it's very, I'm just excited to be a member of the community that you guys are thinking about these things.
Yeah.
Well, the whole thing is just to managing all the property that we have in town as far as, what is, considered commercial, non-commercial, residential, and where we put, some of the properties that we want to purchase at. Do we want to, for example, if, the two to, we have to be salesmen too here, is also, if we want to do this, we got to look at what areas are we going to do this in. We're going to get more buy-in from the members of our community if we're putting these preservation areas in the neighborhoods that they live in, not on Main Street, those type of areas, because those are commercial. So I think looking at like more of the residential areas so that we maintain fewer of these subdivisions and the people have similar type of living space that they have now. And I think that's, and one of the advantages is it's a huge advantage having the CPC now and the state, aiding with this. But I think, on open space should also be somebody from planning so that they, we go with them and say, we're looking at this, but, if you're thinking about in the future of changing the residential map and adding this as commercial, when this is an area that we're looking at for future habitat areas or future conservation land, then that's not what we want.
Encouraging smart growth of business and economic opportunities
Right,
while
so-
preserving the heritage of the community, the natural heritage of the
Right.
community, and forest cover. We should look at using GIS, what forested parcels are there still out there.
Well, that's the one thing that I talked to Rich about is, and this would probably come under open space now that if we have a committee, is looking at where are the tax liens coming? Where are the properties that, hey, instead of waiting till the person is about ready to lose a 50-acre farm or 20 acres or 5 acres in an area that we want. So once we figure out what we want to do and where we want to be, we can use the tax records and the tax liens to see, hey, there's somebody that's elderly in this home, this is where we can come in and help them, either as a purchase, and I think we were still looking for the town legal liaison to find out how exactly we could take on a property and actually give, the legal term would be a living will, to a person. So if I came to you and I said, okay, we're going to give you your property, but we're going to give you and your wife a living will. So you stay in that home till both of you pass away. And then at that point, then we take our portion of the property. So it's a matter of the legal ways with the town. Do we, so that the price of the lease that we pay is equivalent to what his taxes are. So what we would do is if his taxes were $15,000 a year, the lease that we would have from the town would be $15,000. He'd pay us $15,000 taxes, we'd pay a $15,000 lease.
Well, you're talking about changing the law, I think, and so that would require a
this is
lawyer,
the-
because I'm not sure if we can pay, as a commission, pay a
Well,
lease.
not the commission, this would go through the town. So this is thinking of things that we've never done, that businesses and families do to protect themselves legally. So, for example, in order to pass down the money in generation, in a family law, what he would do, he would have a living trust, the home would be in the kids' names, and the living trust will allow him to live in the home until he passed away.
And there's no taxes.
And there's no tax implications, because the children own the home. So what we want to do, instead of these children owning the home, the town of Norfolk owns this home. So how do we legally do that? So
Yeah.
it's a legal way to do it. It's just, does it have to be something that's enacted through the select board, so that's what the
You're
legal
asking
department
the
needs.
town to waive their real estate taxes.
No, well, and how do you legally do that? So,
Order, yeah.
so
Yeah, you're
this
asking the
where-
town to waive their real estate taxes, give
Well,
them
no,
a
so
waiver
that's
on
why
real
it'd have
estate
to be a
taxes.
lease. So it would have to be a document.
But still, with
where-
that, I mean, that's why you have to go to the town council and
Yeah,
So-
I think
figure
we
it out.
talked about this with town council in a meeting, and they were kind of, didn't
They
know
hadn't,
about
no one had
this.
brought it up to them before.
So-
Yeah.
So it's something that they need to.
Yeah.
I believe that it is possible, so if someone, had 60 acres and put 50 of those acres into a CR, they would get, a lump sum payment. And I believe it is possible for, the commission could be responsible for maintaining the CR, and then it could be deeded so that, when,
Yeah, that particular portion is deeded, so if you do it in a family matter, it's the same as a will that you would record at county courthouse. So, it would be the same thing. So whether we purchase all the property at once and then give them a certain part, that's where the lawyers need to figure out exactly how we word it and how we do that, and how we lease. We may lease from them with, a contract to purchase at a certain date, where we lease the conservation land, and that amount of money we try to make the same as their tax bill. And then as they're living there, they still have all their property. Nothing's different to them. The only thing is different on paper. So when they pass away, the land becomes conservation. The kids get the front part of the house and the land that goes with it, and they can do what they want with it.
I like the idea. I think we should focus on tools that we have already at our
Well, the problem is, you can ask,
fingertips.
what we're dealing with is each and every time, as we wait, the opportunities decrease, and these large developments,
40
we're at the
days.
end. The parents have died, and the kids are cashing in. And anyone that's a legal owner of the property is cashing in, because at that point, you're saying, would you like $2 million from the town, or the developer's offering you $15 million? And at that point, it's too late. And that's why we need to do it sooner. While the grandparents, or the parents, we can say, wouldn't you like to leave a legacy to the town? wouldn't you like your property to be part of a legacy in your name that you left in conservation?
So they can donate it, or they can leave it in their will. There's just no current mechanism where the town sort of,
Well,
it has like the right,
is what
we have
we
the
need.
right of first refusal. There's like a whole other slew of things that I'm
Yeah.
How'd the Lynn
recognizing, but
property
you're
come
talking about sort of
They
creating.
donate it? The Lynn
What's that?
the Lynn property, they donate it to the town? Is that how
Yes.
we got that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
In fact, I met one of the heirs about a month or
Right.
two ago at my job.
Because
So
what's
they wanted
bothering
to
what's
know what's
bothering
going
me
on
is
with
the
it.
40B situation. I know we have a percentage that the town has to meet at some point. I don't know what it's called.
It's like
Not
10 or
before-
13%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we got to meet that. But I didn't realize that a 40B, they're not under our jurisdiction. We have nor does the town.
Nobody does.
They can go
Town
build in
law.
wetlands, and we have nothing, we can't do a thing about it.
No, they have to meet the Wetland Protection Act.
They
They don't
do?
have to meet the local bylaw. Yeah,
Okay.
they don't have a
So
waiver
they
from
still have
state
to
law.
meet the
Yes.
wetland, okay. Because
state-
I was under the impression they could just go in and
Oh,
build.
no.
No,
But, you know.
no, they have to, state law, but
Some
no
of
local
some of
law.
the things that we protect are not considered under the state law. So the ones which is why we had the issue with Seekonk Street, is because of, was it a continually running stream or not? And if it wasn't, then that whole area was gone.
Right.
So because it was, it fell under the state bylaw, the state law, not under our local ordinance. So that's where the issue was, and that's why we were able to protect and go from 144 units to 44.
Right.
It was because we went into executive sessions and...
Well, luckily
That was
we
a
did what
battle.
we did, because I've been up there a lot. They just put the
Yeah,
water main up
but
there, and
that-
there's wet
To answer your
ones.
question,
Oh, yeah.
that's the difference. So
Yes.
that's,
So, can I throw in a couple points for you in your discussion?
George.
All right, thanks. So one is that the planning board is going to be embarking on the master plan study, and they're going to be looking to form a master plan steering committee, and that they're most likely going to want to have a representative from the Conservation Commission, just to give you a heads up, to be aware of that coming up. In terms of the open space, well, as Regan mentioned, that's your duty, that's your responsibility to update the open space plan, carry it out. One of the things I mentioned with Caitlin is this go around with the plan. What I would like to see happen would be really kind of an assessment of the things that you all talked about, that you have in terms of there's evaluation done before this property becomes on the market or subject to development pressure, so that you could talk to property owners ahead of time. So for example, when I used to work in Raynham, through the Open Space Committee, we sent out letters to different property owners and said, the town might be interested in your property. Have you thought about long-term future for your plans? We'd like to talk about it, just to open up a dialogue, because some of the things you all mentioned could be planned ahead of time, and it starts that conversation with them that you could explore potential options, and you'd be more prepared to be able to do that. So it could be an acquisition where, appraisal's done, they donate a portion of it because it saves them on capital gains. It could be, like you mentioned, Jim, maybe it's a conservation restriction that you acquire for them. So some of the existing tools you already have, you can use those, but you start that conversation with the property owner. So that way, when you go to the CPC, potentially for funding down the road, you've done some of that work. So for example, the one, Jim, you talked about, Seekonk Street, maybe I understood that property potentially could have been available to the town to buy. Maybe if there was an assessment done that the end of the road, you would have said, you know what, it's worth preserving for a habitat or a forestry or something. And maybe the town would have acquired it, and you wouldn't be looking at Lakeland Farms.
I think
Lakeland Hill,
if
sorry.
we had gone in earlier, and there's a huge dollar difference in the price of the property, going from 144 units to 44 units. And I think
Right.
I agree with you that at that point you could have said, wouldn't you like to leave a legacy? Wouldn't, we buy it now, you get your money now, as opposed to 20 years from now, or 10 years from now. Or, divvying up into plots and houses of the land that, you raised your kids in.
Yeah.
And I think,
Okay.
So I'm excited that you guys are going to be embarking on doing the update. The one other thing I mentioned to Caitlin is that you might want to consider seeking some money from CPC to help you out with the process. So if you want to bring some help in to try to
Consulting.
Yeah, some consultant, because they could give you some ideas and some best practices, different techniques other towns are doing. You can community engagement and so forth. I said it's great that you're really interested, but you also, at the moment, you do have your regulatory responsibility. So having some outside help for you all would, whatever would be beneficial, I would think.
Well, and they know
To the problem.
what to do versus we're shooting gunshot or buckshot. We know what we want to do, but how to get to the end result would take us longer versus somebody that knows the process and can help us and knows which ways, what methods work and what methods don't work in acquiring land in the way we are talking about. So,
I think we
And all-
used a consultant to put together the last version, correct?
of what?
The open space plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
There was.
Remember,
So we could find out how much that was and then use that as a starting point to put in a request for additional funding. And maybe.
So I have been, maybe unbeknownst to you all, sorry about that, but I have been carrying 25,000, the capital plan for you for this endeavor, at least as a holding place. So
For what endeavor?
open space recreation plan update.
Oh, okay.
So at least there was at least a number. I think it's a reasonable number, but. And the reason why I would tell you it's probably not a bad number is because a good amount of the required work you're going to need to do as part of the open space plan will come out of the master plan. But also the town did the ADA transition plan. And so a lot of that required work of the updating the open space plan on the ADA side of it, some of that's already been done as well. So it should save you, in terms of the overall update to the plan, that stuff has already been put together. There's a good amount of it already available.
What's the timeline for the master plan?
I would say roughly 18 months.
So our open space will be in operation the same time they are,
It will be.
which isn't bad.
And that's fine. I think we just need to make it clear to people so that when we're doing this stuff, that it's, tonight you're talking about open space because of the open space recreation plan and maybe it's master plan and, just.
It all
just
comes
so they-
together.
Yeah, obviously, the master plan will have a section on,
Yep.
Parks and
goals, yeah,
recreation.
conservation and recreation goals that would be couched under the master plan.
We'll help them
Yeah.
write our portion.
But no, that's a fair point. There's a good amount that maybe gets covered in the master plan that gives you an opportunity to do maybe a deeper dive on certain things that you want to do, work on through the open space.
Okay. A little more discussion on it, but I think we're headed in the right direction with it. And yeah, if we can get once we hear from the attorney, we'll hopefully be able to get the open space committee going in the next month or two. Is there anything else anybody wants to bring up?
I do have a legacy document that talks about, options for landowners to donate. and
Oh, okay.
Do conservation restrictions. I think I forget who it was put out by, but I have it, I can email it to everybody. and
Well, no,
perhaps-
email it to Elaine
Okay,
and then her to us. That's how we normally do things. because we don't want to get into the open meeting law violations, because now all of a sudden there's a chain of emails between members, which looks like a meeting.
Well, so I know what you're saying. If you're more comfortable with me emailing it to Elaine, I don't
Yes.
mind to, but I can email you guys things as long as we don't debate something. I'm very comfortable with open meeting law, but
Yeah.
I don't mind doing it that way if it makes you feel safer.
Yeah, I would appreciate
Okay.
that. Safe.
Yeah, and then so somebody either as part of the open space plan or, start to identify desirable properties, like come up with characteristics of
Yep.
who we should start to approach and why.
Yeah, I know of a few properties that I'd like to start talking to, so,
Start strong arming them.
yeah, some on Union Street.
That guy's a
You're
sucker.
supposed to schmooze, not strong arm.
And I believe the
Here,
state
here.
was looking into creating another section of Chapter 61. It was going to be Chapter 61C for carbon storage. So it's not as, so landowners would get the same tax exemptions as agricultural land or forested land, but it's not, there's not as much work required.
And I believe, I don't know if it's just New Hampshire or if it's in Massachusetts also, once you can get an exemption for agriculture and forest land, but I think there's a huge penalty if you take that exemption and then try to sell your land for development, other than the original purpose of the deduction. So, and I think that's something that people might not understand when they look to go to a developer to sell their land. They might have a huge tax bill because that land was given a tax break because it was used for either forest lands or agricultural land. So I don't know whether that's, what the long-term ramification is for a tax person, for the tax holder of the property. But I know in New Hampshire, it was a huge thing, and that there was one way to conserve property because they got a huge tax break on land that had timber. But if they tried to sell it for development, it was almost all taken back because then they went back to where you originally started and charged you for house lots. So it negated everything. So
I'm not sure if I've heard of that in Massachusetts. Obviously, there's the right of first refusal that towns would have if someone was taking land out of Chapter 61. I'm wondering if maybe New Hampshire does that since they rely on property taxes.
more so than,
More so than.
and they were trying, and there's a lot of agricultural land and a lot of forest land. So I think they were trying to
So
prevent
it's the same, we
developers.
do have it here as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a rollback tax, but the one that you're describing, Jim, seems more, because people have converted out. I mean, the Slattery property, Slattery property off of Lawrence Street, that was in chapter and they sold it. I mean, they do pay the rollback, but I don't think it was so onerous that it prevented somebody from selling the property. It's just, it comes due.
So that, actually why we need help, because there's then the price of the property that they'd be getting, the price we'd offer,
Is
and then the
appraisal,
rollback.
is
and the roll-
appraisal, all we can pay is
Yeah.
appraisal.
Right,
Yeah.
it's a low, that's the problem. We can only
Yeah.
do appraisal.
So we have to get creative on how we approach
Yeah.
and
So if they have taxes coming back, if it's maintained in a transfer of ownership, then they're not going to get that tax hit. So that's one benefit of going with the town, is you don't get that tax hit. So you can add what we'd give you, plus you don't get the tax hit, and see how close that actually comes to what a developer would be paying. Or maybe allow us to pay a little bit less.
No, good discussion, good discussion. More to follow. But yeah, we do need help. And yeah, with the extra money Rich has been hoarding, we can get some help.
Yeah, did you say you had capital fund? You put it in capital? Oh, I think you're muted.
You're muted.
You're muted.
You're muted, Rich.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we
Okay.
can.
Okay. So technically, I don't have any money hoarded for it. I just, in the finance department, they run the capital plan, and one of the things from the land use department, I put in their request for updating the open space recreation.
Oh, okay.
I didn't think open space plan qualified as a capital investment. I don't know.
Under our definition of capital, yeah, because it's the way we define it, like the master plan, I know the same thing, yeah. Some of these planning documents qualify as capital, even though it's not truly capital.
Because of the expense?
The dollar amount, and I think it was the useful life of it, because it spans over multiple years. I know it's not a tangible thing, but
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I don't know, that's how
We'll
I've
take
always
it.
done. I know,
take
right?
it.
Yeah,
I guess.
Can't look a
I
gift
didn't
horse
argue,
in
I
the
just put
mouth
it in
right
there,
now.
but yeah, I know what you're saying.
yeah.
All right.
Thank you for the feedback, Rich.
Listen, it's not my job.
Okay, any other business anybody wants to bring up? Okay, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? Oh, where is
Jim Wilson,
Shaggy?
second. I know.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, the meeting's adjourned.